I think we are live. I'm going to wait just a second to make sure that audio and everything is working on your guys' end. Looks like it's okay over here, but we all know that doesn't always mean anything. Let's see. There's always a bit of a lag there, probably 30 seconds to a minute between when I say something and you guys actually hear it, and then I've got to wait to see for responses. So just gonna sit here and randomly talk to myself. You're probably also going to start hearing for the next, it'll probably be for months. Friday streams, the construction is like right behind my house now. Well, a few houses down, but it's getting there. And so the hammering, nothing I can do about that. But unless they start blasting music, which a lot of the construction workers, they eventually do, it doesn't seem to be the guys putting up the actual like walls, but once they start doing the brickwork, for some reason the brickwork guys think that it's appropriate in residential neighborhoods to blast music. Blast, like it's loud. So that might be an issue for streams just because of copyright issues on Patreon, because it's loud enough, or not Patreon, on YouTube. It probably would pick up. But yeah, let's see. Anybody saying that audio? Okay, Joseph says audio is live. He's got his macros going again. Paul said, thanks, Joseph. Paul said, what does matte medium do? I bought the Liquitex one. Any tips on how to use it properly? I really don't use matte medium much, but you can use it, add it to paint, and it will make it come out more matte instead of that higher gloss. So it can be used as a medium, like similar, because it should be clear. You should be able to use it similar to a glazing medium. I haven't played with it a whole lot, so I can't give you a ton of information on it, but I know that in theory it is supposed to make the paint itself more matte, but I would have to practice it with it more to get an idea. Oh no, we're not starting, mister. You go lay down. Gibson, lay down. Lay down. Lay down. We're already having Greyhound board drama. He's been getting bored very easily. Lay down, Gibson. Lay down. He wants to go lay outside. I can't keep an eye on him, so that's not happening. Lay down. Lay down. Sorry. Give me just a second. We're working on this. Yeah, I see that stink eye. Good boy. Let's see. Hi, Lori. Let's see. I'm so excited to see how you draw the kitten. Oh, yay. Okay, so I think we are good. So I can go ahead and get started. Now, I am working on Lux Archival Sanded Paper, and just for transparency, that paper was sent to me by Brush and Pencil, who is the inventor of this paper. I'm not paid to review it or compensated otherwise. I was just sent it to test, and turns out it is the best sanded paper in the history of all sanded paper. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, except I'm actually not. That's all literal. It is amazing. And so that is what I'm working on here. I did my base layers with Pan Pastel. So everything you're really seeing here, other than the eyes, those were already done with the Pan Pastels. And now I'm going on top of that, mainly with my polychromos at this point, because polychromos blend out so well on sanded paper. I may or may not use powder blender. I don't think I'll need it because I have so much Pan Pastel on here, but you know, it's next to me. It's an option if I need it. Paul said, but I use Liquitex Basics, which dries matte. So have I wasted my money? Try it with some other paints. I can't give you a lot of information on it, unfortunately, because it's not something I really use. So I'm not going to be the best person to answer that, and I don't want to give you false or like mislead you there. I would do a search on that or contact the company and ask them. Like, they should have information telling you the best uses for it, because I'm sure it's used for other things besides that. I just don't use it myself, so I can't really tell you. When it comes to art supplies, I normally would not say you have wasted money. You just have to figure out how to use whatever supplies it is that you have. You may find a use for something 2-3 years later that you're like, this is the best thing ever. It just didn't apply to you at the time you bought it. So I don't think it's ever really a waste. But yeah, so here I'm just going to start putting in the little furs. Little short guys here. I want to watch the reference photo. I don't need this to be exact, but I do want to pay attention to the length of the fur, the direction that it moves in. I don't care if the color is exact. I'm going to work on getting my values correct. But see how here we start getting a little bit longer. We'll overlap a bit more. Let's see. Alexandra said, I want to start oil painting and I want to use liquid as a medium, but I have cats and I am worried about the fumes. How can I be sure that they are safe? Have a well-ventilated room. I mean, if it's safe enough for you to breathe it, it's safe enough for the cats to breathe it. My problem for the cats, or the thing, assuming they don't have upper respiratory issues. The thing that you want to watch with cats is that they don't jump up and lick the liquid. If they ingest it, that can be very dangerous. I am far more worried about that when it comes to animals than I am the fumes for a cat. For a bird, yes, that would be a big concern. But with cats, they're not typically super sensitive. I mean, if it's safe enough for you to be in the room, I would say you are fine. Some people just prefer to keep their pets out of the room while they're painting. That's an option for you. But the reason that I got started with the Mastersons, is it the Mastersons? That palette that I have, it's listed on my website under supply list. But the palette that it has that lid over it was because I had a cat at the time when I first started with oil painting, and she was getting up in, I was worried about her getting into stuff. So that allows me to seal it off. So when I wasn't home, she had no access. She couldn't get to my palette. So that was how I got started with that. But that would be my bigger concern. The fumes, whatever setup you're using, if it's safe enough for you, the cat should be fine. I just worry about them getting into it and actually ingesting something. That's what you really should, that's where you should focus your attention on preventing. Irritated Paintbrush said, hi, Lisa. The purple background looks so gorgeous. Thank you. Hi, G from Iceland. Let's see. Hi from Finland. Love your new hair. I was wondering, why don't you use Caran d'Ache Pablos anymore? I never really used Caran d'Ache. I never owned a full set of Caran d'Ache Pablos. For my normal stuff, when I work on hot press watercolor paper, I say normal, but what I used to use more, I still do, but I don't know why I call that normal now. Different way of working. But anyway, when I work on those, the Pablos are too waxy for me. They're definitely not my favorite. I do like them for final layers on sanded paper. I just have never invested in a full set. So, I mean, my Caran d'Ache Luminance worked fine for that. And on something like this, if you mean like the Caran d'Ache Luminance, why I don't use those as much anymore, it's not that I'm not using them as much, it's just that they're not really the best on sanded paper. So when I work on hot press watercolor paper, then I'm going to go towards those. But I do find more and more when I need a wax-based pencil, I find myself leaning towards those, the Derwent Light Fast, which I know they're listed as an oil base, but in practice they feel more waxy. They blend more like a wax-based pencil. So, I mean, all of them are have wax and oil. But yeah, that's what I kind of found myself going towards more. But it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm working on black paper, you're going to see me use my Caran d'Ache Luminance a lot more then. So it just depends on the paper and what it is I'm working on as to which pencil I go with. Oh, that just scrolled. Hold on, where were we? There we go. Casey said, so you said the only thing you couldn't fix on a painting is a hole in the canvas. Well, it's not a hole, but I can see through it. I don't know how to help you with that one. That's sorry. Chris said, good morning. At least it's still morning-ish here. Good morning. Well, I'm going to go with it's morning too because I haven't been awake that long myself. I'm so super jealous you live in Laguna still. Let's see. Lucas said, hey, can you please suggest how to remove wax bloom from colored pencil drawings, like after it has shown up a few days after I stopped working on it? So that tells me you're working with Prismacolor. Prismacolor used to, I don't know if they still do because I don't use Prismacolor anymore, but they used to make a spray that when you were done, you just take a cloth and wipe the wax bloom off, and then you can spray it with that Prismacolor spray over it, and that should keep the wax bloom. It should minimize it anyway. From continuously popping up like crazy. So that would be what I would recommend. Look into that. Now, let's say you're using Prismacolor and Polychromos, test it because not everything, like if it's made for Prismacolor, it may not play nicely with the Polychromos, and you don't want to find that out on a completed piece. So always do a test because there have been some sprays that didn't play nice with other pencils. Definitely test that, but that is pretty much, I mean, the wax bloom really is a Prismacolor thing. So check and see if they still make that product to tone that down. But generally just wiping it with a cloth, like an old t-shirt or something, that will remove it, but it will keep coming back if you don't spray it with something. Paul said, by the way, my complete Game of Thrones Blu-ray just arrived and rewatched season 1. It's weird how I feel nostalgic with it since it started when I was in junior high school and I'm working now. Oh, wow. It makes you feel so old, doesn't it, when you stuff like that? Like when I look back at, when I was a teenager, I remember or like late teens, early 20s, Buffy the Vampire Slayer being, big. And well, actually, I think it was into my mid-20s too. And it's like looking back now, how long ago that was. Like it doesn't feel like it was that long. Are you going to skip watching the last season on that? because that's probably what I would do if I ever decided to rewatch it, which I don't see myself doing. I would probably skip the final season and pretend it just never happened. I mean, I know what happened. I just don't need to watch it be rushed. Let's see. Grab a cream color here. Let's see. Hi from Argentina. Hi. Sky and Pumpkin look amazing. Can't wait to see how you draw the kitten. I've never drawn an animal in colored pencil, but I really want to learn how to do it. Well, hello from Argentina. Or, hi. I have a friend who lives out there that I used to play Warcraft with a lot. He lives out there now. He lived in, I think, Louisiana for a while or Texas for a while, and now he's back to Argentina. That is the extent of my knowledge about Argentina. I am not well educated. So just coming through, getting some of these lighter areas in here. And it's just like everything else, same way when I paint, when I do anything, it's always just a layering process. One of the things that you want to kind of avoid in most cases a lot, I know when I first started painting and drawing, you have this idea that it works like a paint by number, just put the right color in the right place. But really it's a layering process. You're going to keep layering and layering until it looks how you want. There's no... It's easy to get frustrated when it doesn't look exactly how you want it in the first layer, but that is unnecessary. Like it just doesn't, it's not that big of a deal. Just keep layering. And you're going to have some ugly layers. Like right now, he's in a very ugly stage. So we're at the stage now that I think is more fun, where we get to start making him look more realistic. Now, if we look at the reference photo, that reference photo has a white background. He's got to have little black hairs going in front of it. The little black hairs aren't going to show on my background because it's so dark. So I'm just doing the reverse. He's getting some little light hairs to stick out over the background there. Now you guys, if you are following along with this, you can take a lot more time than I can and put more detail into yours. Yours you can make look a lot nicer than mine. I'm just going to smudge that a little bit because you do have more time. Oh, need a paper towel. Jacqueline said, hi, Lisa from Oxford, UK. Love your art. It never fails to inspire me. Oh, I do a lot of colored pencil work, but I've never used powder blender. How do you use it? And would you recommend giving it a try? Of course, I would recommend giving it a try for sure. Like it's a learning, like there's definitely a learning curve. I thought when I first tried it that it would be kind of like when I first started with OMS. The medium didn't change that much. I still felt like I was working with the same colored pencils. With powder blender, you're working, yes, you're using colored pencils, but it's going to feel like you're working in a whole other medium. It's very, very different, and it does take a little getting used to. And I know a lot of people were like complaining about it. They didn't like it. And it's like, well, you didn't really give it enough chance to learn how to use it correctly. The more I used it, the more I liked it, for sure. So I definitely would recommend it. You want to use it on sanded paper. Don't try to use it on your normal like hot press watercolor paper or something like that. It's just not going to give you the results that you would want. So that's an important thing to be aware of. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely recommend it. I love this stuff. But you know, there is that learning curve, and I've got quite a few videos that'll walk you through and show you how to use it properly. That stuff is so fun to work with. It saves a lot of time. But like I said, and I say this as a warning just because I've seen too many people give up. Like they try one thing and they're like, it doesn't look good. I don't like it. I'm not going to use it anymore. And it's like, well, you didn't learn how to use it. Like one time is not enough to learn how to use it because it's not. I feel like I'm working in a completely different medium when I use it, which I love. I like working in lots of mediums. So yeah, that's about most of the information I guess I can give you on that. And just as a reminder, make sure to do the @Lachri Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight my name in orange, I normally won't see the question, so I'll ignore you on accident. Sometimes I catch them, but not usually. Let's see. Hi from Southern California. What is your favorite medium? I would say acrylics. Like if there was one medium, if somebody for some reason was like, you could only use this medium forever, I would say acrylics because I can do everything in acrylics that I can do, you know, and I count my airbrush in my acrylic medium, but I feel like I can do everything with acrylics and I can do it pretty fast. So I would say acrylics are probably my favorite. Then Inktense and colored pencil are likely right behind that. Although watercolor pencils are really growing on me more and more all the time too. So I'm just using a mixture of different tones of browns and grays here. It doesn't matter which ones, honestly, like always, it is the values that I'm more concerned with. Dark's dark enough, light's light enough. That is the thing that will make your work look realistic or not. Well, one of the main things. Choosing the right color not that big of a deal, honestly. Choosing the right value, that will make a difference in your work. Paul said, by the way, Chris Dunlop has drawn something that's not a car, and it was awesome. I know he drew that shark. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Show off. He's like, hey, I can draw all the things. Yeah, no, it looks freaking amazing. The lighting on that shark is the thing that I'm most impressed with, because that's usually the thing most people have a hard time getting, the lighting on, like dolphins, sharks, whales. He nailed that. It looks so good. Although I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So let's get some of the longer hairs in here. And I'm just using, this one is the ivory, I believe. Yeah, ivory. Now, a common thing that I hear with sanded paper, people will ask, it seems like the colored pencils, you burn through them faster. Yes, but you're also laying the pencil down faster. So I can do in one layer what would take me 6, 7, 8 layers on hot press watercolor paper. It just takes longer. You're getting the same amount of coverage, basically, just faster. So it seems like you're burning through your pencils faster, but it's not really like you're getting the work done faster. You're getting more layers faster is really what's happening. Now, I had to do the dark base first so that these little light hairs would stand out over it. Soften those a little bit. Go ahead and add a little bit of titanium white over this. This is the time I love or not titanium white, it's just called white, but this is the time I really like my white polychromos. I don't usually use white polychromos on like a hot press watercolor paper too often. It's the polychromos are very translucent, but on sanded paper, oh my gosh, it stands out so well. S says, hi, do you plan to participate in Inktober this year? The official prompt is pretty cool. Good. No, I don't have time to do those. Like if I did those, I would have to stop everything else, like all my normal lessons and stuff, and those are how I pay my bills. So not really practical for me. I love that concept of Inktober. I think it's really fun. It's a great way to get people drawing more, but I don't really have time to participate in those. I definitely would have done those when I was younger if that was, if the internet was a thing when I was younger. I think they're pretty cool. Paul said, I'm rewatching Game of Thrones with someone who hasn't seen it. Daenerys in season 1. How about you? Or I love Daenerys in season 1. How about you? Yeah, I definitely like her in that one. I just wish they would have, I would have liked to see the mental change a little bit. They should have just dragged it out. It's just, I'm still frustrated on that one. Almost as frustrated as I am about Kirsten Stewart ruining Snow White. But yeah, I liked her. My favorite were always throwing pencil. I snapped my finger with the pencil on the thing. Ghost is my favorite character because I'm a crazy person. Casey said, I found a giant canvas and want to do a big surreal piece. What do you think about starting with a couple of objects and slowly adding more when you finish the previous ones? That's definitely one of the ways. I'm stuck on my airbrush toes. It's definitely one of the ways that I do surreal work where I'll kind of start and just layer on top of layer. Here's the thing though, you're working large, depending on how large it is. Let's say it's 36 by 48 or larger. When you're sitting up close in your painting, you're maybe not making the best choices about the placement and the balance. Can it be done? Absolutely, but you probably would be better off coming up with a generalized sketch and a smaller sketchbook so that you can make sure everything balances out nicely. If not, make sure you're backing away from that canvas a lot and double checking because it may come out to be amazing without, just doing it like you're planning. But it's safer to come up with a bit of a design first, for sure. Soften this up here so he doesn't have super zombie kitten fur. Chris said, what kind of white pencil do you think has the best opacity coverage? Hands down, Derwent Drawing Chinese white, but that one is a bit thicker. You're not going to get a lot of tiny detail with it, but it is definitely the most opaque white pencil that I use. And then right behind that would be the Luminance white. Prismacolor white probably, I believe that was fairly opaque, but I think I liked the Luminance white better as far as opacity goes. I mean, I like it better in practice as well, but that, if I'm remembering correctly, was even more opaque. But the Derwent Drawing Chinese white is the most opaque. It's thicker and it's an even softer lead, so you're not going to sharpen it to like a fine point and get tiny details. But man, that thing is wonderful if you don't need tiny details. Let's see. George said, what is your favorite Kristen Stewart performance? Just kidding. There was a movie she died in recently. My husband told me about it. I didn't watch it, but I liked it. Oh, I shouldn't say things like that. This is how I'm going to get demonetized. It was a movie. I'm not talking about the real person. Sometimes that's enjoyable to watch. There is something wrong with me. Okay, moving on. Things I should not say out loud. I don't actually like wish harm on people. I just say stupid things because I think I'm hilarious. Other people don't think I'm hilarious. So what I need to do right now is I build this texture. I've got to make sure I keep softening it out where the fur needs to be very soft and dense. Otherwise, he looks scraggly. We don't want him to look like he needs a bath. Angel said, working on a small paper and on a gigantic surface are difficult. What size can you suggest? 9 by 12 inches. Well, for what? I mean, it depends on what, like, let's say a new student, usually with colored pencil, I would say, depending on what the subject is, an 8 by 10 or an 11 by 14 are kind of my go-to sizes for somebody new with colored pencil. With acrylic painting, 16 by 20, anywhere between, I would say, an 11 by 14 to a 16 by 20 was always a pretty good way to get people started. Okay, gonna start working. We'll get a little bit of the darker values in here now, so using that black. I'll come through with a bit of purple in his fur too on some of this, just to make him fit in with the background. Start getting some of his little stripes. Now, if you are a pet portrait artist and you're drawing a kitten, you need to make sure these stripes are in the exact right place. You don't get to take artistic liberties there. However, I don't know who this kitten belongs to. I can put these stripes where I want. So if I'm like, hey, it'll look better if I added one, took one away, I don't have to worry about that. But if you're drawing somebody's pet, watch out for that. I always tell this story, but there was a pet portrait artist in a forum I was in years ago, and she had drawn the pattern, like the dog had a certain marking, like we'll call it cow print. It was a pied. And actually, I think she was Irish. But anyway, they had the marking completely on the wrong side of the dog. I mean, I get that you thought that would balance or look good. I don't know how you reversed that, but the owner was like, that's not my dog now. Like, I can't hang this. It's not my dog. So you want to make sure that the markings, if you're doing a pet portrait, need to be exact. If you're just like what I'm doing here, making a cute kitten, you can put those stripes where you think they look cute. Let's see. Chris says, Kristen Stewart has left the chat. Angel said, you switch Kirsten Stewart and Kristen Dunst. I do. I mix those two's name up all the time because they're both equally terrible. Like, man, terrible. Let's see. Angel said, get that one. Said, have you ever tried painting with just black ink and water? This is one of my favorite mediums. Painting with it is so much fun and easy. I have not, but I've seen that done and it looks really nice. Like, that is a really cool way to work. I've not done that much with ink, honestly. I mean, besides Inktense, but that's a little bit different. But like ink itself, I've never really done a whole lot with. I have a tendency to buy the ink. Like, I've got some back there. Plus, I've got some from Smart Art Boxes, but then I just don't use them. No real reason other than I like to buy stuff and then never use it, apparently. I had every intention in trying some stuff like that. So I've got to watch right now. He's getting really scraggly up there. I'll have to soften all that out. Even though I'm on my zombie kick, zombie kitten is not what I'm going for here. You've got to watch too when you're drawing animals, depending on the fur type. If it's an Irish Wolfhound, okay, you're going to have, I'm going to get colored pencil all over my face, you're going to have that coarse fur. But then when you talk about, let's say, a collie, you've got very, very soft, a rough-coated collie would have very soft fur. It's very dense. It's kind of, it's fluffy. So you've got to watch that when you're drawing animals. It's not like, okay, this is how I always draw fur. It depends on the texture of that animal. And if you get that wrong, you will very easily make him look scruffy, dirty, homeless, or zombie versus a well-groomed animal. So watch how you do that fur. You don't want to make it look the same on every single animal because pay attention to your reference photo. Angel said, have you tried coffee painting too? I have not, but I've seen some awesome stuff done that way. I mean, I've accidentally painted, we'll call it painted coffee when I spilled it all over the place, but that's about as far as I've gotten. I am very graceful. And I'm just kind of blocking in about where those lights and darks are going to go, constantly looking at my reference photo. Biggest tip I can give you is really, there's my airbrush, really look at your reference photo. Spend more time looking at that photo than you do your actual artwork. One of the biggest mistakes I see students or newer artists make is that they look at the photo once and they think they have it memorized, and then they go to town and make something that looks nothing like the photo because they weren't looking at the photo. Look at that photo a lot. Casey said, it's a 24 by 30, huge to me, but probably not to you. It isn't something very serious, so I'm not worried if it isn't perfect. I just want to experiment. I think you're okay on a 24 by 30. Yeah, it's not too huge. I think trying to get your balance right isn't going to be a problem. When you're working like, wall size, that's when I would be worried about getting everything positioned right, but I think you'll be okay that way. And with acrylics, because of the dry time, I mean, I've done a lot of surreal pieces like that where I just keep adding and adding and adding as I go. Daniela said, how many layers do you usually do on a colored pencil piece? On sanded paper, I don't know, 3 to 5, 10. On hot press watercolor paper, I would say probably closer to 20. Angel said, Kristen Dunst was that kid from Jumanji and Interview with a Vampire in the 90s. Gosh, I'm stuck in the 90s, 90s aesthetic, 90s fashion and everything. The only thing I ever liked her with was Interview with a Vampire. Because, I mean, she was a kid, whatever. But, like, everything else she was in, man, that girl can't act at all. Painfully so. And it's weird because you see children actors, like when you see a good one and then you go back and see these ones that they hired because they were cute but they couldn't act, like the difference, some of these kids can be really amazing at acting. So it's funny for how long it seems like you saw it, well, not all old movies, but it was very common on a lot of older stuff that I watched, like stuff from the 50s too, where you'd have these kids who it's like so dryly reading the lines and you could tell they looked super nervous with the whole thing. Let's see, start blocking in a few of these lighter areas. Wait, you are here, you are here, you are this one. Okay, I need one here. See, even I'm losing my place. But yeah, the whole reference photo thing, like it seems like again, going back to, you get it a lot with younger artists, they think that you're only good if you can draw from memory. And it's like, if you're doing photorealism, like you need a photo. That's what the term means. You're using a photo to create the realism. Like, look at the photo. You're not memorizing things. If you're doing very stylized things, or if you're doing something you've done a million times, I can paint a dolphin without a reference photo, or an orca more, because I painted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. That I've got down pretty well. I'll still use a reference photo to make sure everything's right, but I mean, I can get away without it and still have it look fine. Heck, I'm probably getting to that point with flamingos. I've done so many of those too. But normally, most situations, you're going to want a reference photo, and you really want to look at that reference photo and look at it a lot. Using or not using a reference photo has nothing to do with how good you are as an artist. Actually, usually you're a better artist if you're actually looking at it in most cases. But the artists that I see trying to like go from memory because they think that's what makes them good, which is a weird thing. I don't even know where that concept came from. Yeah, usually less so. Daniela said, wow, that's a big difference. What kind of sanded paper do you recommend? Definitely the Lux Archival. This one is by Brush and Pencil. I think they have it at blick.com now. I'm trying to think who else has it. It's available in many countries. They're getting it out more and more, but that one is my favorite. Behind that would be Fisher 400. But this one is acid-free front and back, whereas Fisher 400 or UR sanded paper, the back of the paper is not acid-free, which inevitably will eventually affect the front of the paper, so I'm not comfortable using that anymore. But yeah. Plus this is amazing. Angel said, but I must say older movies are nuanced and raw, unpretentious, unlike now. Wish I had lived my teens teen life in the 90s. We had better music in the 90s. That was mine. Way better music. Sheila said, I was just looking at the patterns and colors of the kitten's fur and the bit of color in your hair. I'm thinking the kitten pattern might look good on you. Let's see. Many people say you should draw fur in clumps, but how can I draw clumps, especially with short fur? Now, this is a little different, especially here. This fur is just dense and soft, so we're not doing really there are, well, kind of clumps if you go with the stripes, but it's not the same. When we get into his body, it'll start clumping a little bit more, but the kitten fur is a little bit different because it's so short and soft and fluffy. So it's a bit different. Normally, let's say you're drawing a tiger. Look at the fur, how it clumps. You're going to have it kind of clump and cluster together. Look at your photo. Your photo is going to tell you what to do. You have to learn to look at the photo. You have to learn to listen and pay attention to that photo. Angel said, pink flamingos always fascinate me. Me too. There is something about them I love. And my neighbor, I've been trying to convince him that he should not talk crap if I put pink flamingos in my front yard, like the ones like you see in Florida yards and stuff, like the plastic pink flamingos. I'm going to do it one day just to see the look on his face. I do have a zombie flamingo in my front yard right now. He said it was okay just because he doesn't actually care, but he gives me crap about it being tacky. Or the flamingo thing being tacky. So I think what I'm going to do is get one of those pink plastic flamingos and stick it in my tree in my backyard that looks into his backyard. So it's just looking into his backyard all the time just to be a jerk. I think it'd be hilarious. But yeah, no, I have a thing with the flamingos for sure. Let's see. Luna said, I use a 120-gram printed paper with thin application of gesso and sand it to make smooth for practice. It's very much like sanded paper. Nice. Jacqueline said, have you used Kitten Touch or nope, because I can't even say it, for pastel and or colored pencil work, and how do they compare to Clairefontaine pastel mat? I can't compare them. I don't know if I've used them at all, but I don't think so. I don't think I even have any of those, so I can't give you much as far as that. But as far as I know, the pastel mat's kind of its own thing. Like I don't think there's anything that really compares to that. It is its own thing, and I've not even used pastels on it. I need to do that. Zale said, who's snoring over there? Zale said, I'm watching the live stream at work. I hate working regular jobs. I wish I could get my art business up and going so I can quit. You know what's good, though, when you work those regular jobs, when you do get your art business to the point where you can quit, let me tell you, you are going to appreciate it so much. To this day, I mean, I haven't worked at animal hospitals in, God, when did I stop? Like 2002, 2003, right around there. So a long time. And I'm still so grateful not to be working with the general public like that, like the people yelling at you. And working in an animal hospital is not as fun as you might think. The animals are great. The clients, the owners, when they're stressed out, which I get, I mean, I understand why they're stressed out, but yeah, it's not fun. So anyway, you will appreciate it so much because you've worked jobs you hate. Sharpen this pencil to get around the eye here. Paul said, I have heard Disney will buy X-Men franchise. Who would you like to play Rogue? I don't follow it enough to really care one way or another. Like, I'm not that into it. The last few X-Men were so painfully terrible. Like, I was so uninterested. I liked the first couple of them, but God, that was a long time ago. Although my husband did go see the more recent one, and he said he really enjoyed it. But he said if somebody wasn't familiar with those characters, they probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. But as far as like actors I don't really get too much into caring who plays what role as long as they're good at it. I know people like to do I see this a lot in the book groups where like, oh, if this book was made into a movie, who would you want to play those? I don't care enough to even think about it in most cases. I'm boring. I know that is not the answer anyone is looking for, but I don't care enough to even think too much about it. I'm no fun. Let's see. Kristen Stewart, is that an option? Does Rogue die? See, I shouldn't say these things. These are inside thoughts, Lisa. Casey said, I added a grid so I could do the rule of third, or at least to a certain extent. That should help me with the balance. Yeah, that'll make a big difference. Let's see. Peggy again from Southern California. Are you a Libra? I am not. LOL, I am, and I have found that many artist friends of mine are also just wondering. Nope, I'm in Aries. Takes me a minute to think about it. I don't really follow it too much. Lori, I don't even know what my husband is. Like, I don't remember what his is. Like, that's how little I follow. So I'm no help there. Lori said, I spy 3 bats in the shadows of the clouds. Where? They're not intentional. We should put them in, though. Lucas said, have you ever used watercolor underpaintings for colored pencil photorealism drawings? Do you think it's a good combination? I think it's a wonderful combination. I did years and years and years ago, but I have not done it in a very long time. I want to, because that is a really nice mixed media. I need an orangey brown. Yeah, you'll work. Yeah, colored pencil as a base is very good. I definitely need to do some like that, because that, like, when I first really got into art, that was one of my, I really like doing colored or watercolor and then chalk and pastels on top of it. Back before that, I got weird and that started freaking me out. But I really like the watercolor base for sure. Someone's getting comfy over there. Wow, he's not on his back. I'm surprised. To see how I just keep building and layering and then layering more and more and more and more. And I need to thin all that out. So we'll just put that in and then pull the darks next to it. Kat said, I worked at a vet office for a week and quit when a kitten was brought in unconscious from being kicked into a wall. Enough for me. Ooh, we luckily, I didn't see too much when it came to, we did see some neglect for sure. One of the biggest things of neglect that you would see too are people who were overfeeding the animal to the point where it was so unhealthy because it was so ridiculously obese. And the owner just think, oh, it's cute, he's fluffy. No, he's morbidly obese and very unhealthy because of it. So that was definitely a frustrating thing to see. And you weren't really, like, the vets were they knew not to say much in most cases about the weight of the animal. So a lot of people think, and this is one of the things that bugs me, vets know they're going to get ripped apart if they say anything about the weight of the pet, because in many cases, the owners will flip out and take it as a personal attack, like, because whatever. But they won't always say it. So one of the things that's very frustrating is that you see a lot of times, even online today, people say, oh, my vet didn't say anything about him being overweight. If somebody calls them out for, like, wow, that animal is just like sickly overweight, and they'll do my vet didn't say anything. Your vet didn't say anything because you will flip the heck out on them. I've seen, how people act with that. So it's very frustrating. That one was always frustrating because it really impacted the pet's health. Pets health, that grammar, yay. But that one, and there was a woman with a collie, and I love collies. That's definitely one of my favorite breeds. And I had one as a kid. And this one woman had him neutered and then wasn't taking care of it. Like, she left him locked in the dog was matted like you wouldn't believe. So already I don't like you because you're not taking care of the dog. But she left him in a crate while she would go to work after the surgery. She wasn't keeping a cone on him because it didn't fit in the crate, and the dog was licking his suture area he had swollen up. It was bad. It was so infected. And she waited until, the dog, it was so bad by the time she brought it in. That, and then people who, the dog, there was one person one day, dog had been hit by a car, and they called in a panic. My dog was hit by a car. I need to come in right now. We were closed, but the vet's like, go ahead. We're close. We'll bring you in, and then we'll send you off to emergency. Well, it turned out the dog wasn't just hit by a car. It was hit like weeks ago and now had gangrene. And now it's an emergency after hours and we weren't an emergency clinic. So yeah, stuff like that was very frustrating to see. I will say though, as bad as it was, you didn't see that sort of thing that often. Most people were good owners. It was more of an issue because I worked at the front desk. People didn't want to pay the bills, and they would argue about and I get it, it's stressful, it's expensive, but it's like, I'm not the one who sets these prices. You had your estimate before you approved all of this. So yeah, that was always being told how I don't care about animals because I'm trying to make them pay a bill. I left crying at that place so much. Man, that was not a fun place to work. I definitely have a lot more sympathy. Normally, I'm pretty intolerable, I guess, when you go somewhere and they treat the customers rudely or whatever. then I'll give the attitude right back. But when it comes to working in it or the animal hospital stuff, it's like, oh, I get how hard that job is and how you're always on the defensive. You're always waiting to be yelled at when you work at the front desk. So yeah, I'm definitely more lenient to attitudes from receptionists in animal hospitals than I think anywhere else. Let's see. Paul said, what would you do if you've done a commission, say a couple of portraits, and they broke up, but it's already fully paid and decided not to claim the piece? Well, they're still paying. I mean, if they've already paid for it, I'd probably put the painting in the closet for a while. And if they didn't ask for it back, I mean, if it's a portrait of people, not animals, sometimes you can do something with, but if it's a portrait of people, I would just use it as a sample of my work. I would hang on to it for that and just use it as a display. Like if I was at an art show, like here are portraits and here are my prices for portraits. Here's a sample of portraits. That's what I would use it for. I know because I've done that. But I still would require them to pay for it. That's for sure. Casey said, what requirements did you have to work in the animal hospital? There's always something that I've wanted to do. My mom had worked there as a receptionist, and so that's how I got in. She knew the vet very well. So she did a bunch of his like HR stuff. So that's how I started, and they trained you. So I was not, I was considered a receptionist / vet assistant was my official title. In my case, it was I knew someone who knew the vet, and that's how I got in because it can be harder to do. Some people will go to school to be a vet tech, which is kind of not silly. I mean, it's a necessary thing, but it doesn't pay well. And it's kind of like, if I'm going to go to school or pay the money for school, I want to go for something that's there's going to be a decent return on that investment. But wouldn't be my first choice, that's for sure. But that's how I got into it. Let's see. Oh, that scrolled too far. Lorna said, yes, that annoys me. The vet said the dog is fine, yet the same people will be the ones that mention a fit dog is abused. I had that before. My husky isn't fat. Yeah, see, I get that a lot too because I've got sight hounds, and even with my Italian greyhounds, I don't let my dogs get overweight. It's not healthy, and I have full control over what they eat, so it's not hard to make sure, if they start getting a little bit heavier or gaining weight, I know to back off. So I've never, it's just not something that makes a ton of sense to me. My in-laws are they overfeed, I mean, to a horrible degree. They're dogs, and I'm like, you have control over what she's eating, and but she's hungry. She's always going to be, she's a beagle. She's always hungry. That's a beagle thing. Like she knows how to get to work the system and get you to feed her. But anyway, yeah, that was definitely hard. And then now when you have people that will jump all over me saying my dogs are underweight. No, my dog's healthy. Yours is morbidly obese. People have gotten so used to see it with golden retrievers and labs all the time. They are all, I rarely see a golden retriever or a lab that is fit, in a healthy state. And it is so uncommon at this point. So they'll do the whole, your dogs are so emaciated, you're starving them. I'm like, no, my dogs are healthy. Well, they're sight hounds, so they're going to be on the thin side anyway, but people are so used to seeing these overweight dogs that's become the norm now. So when they see a dog who is healthy, they think that's underweight, and it's a whole thing. It's very frustrating as a sight hound owner when people think you don't feed you. Oh, you're starving them. My dogs eat better than I do. Let's see. Angel said, I saw a post where a cute dog wore a tux anticipating with his new owners, but no one came. So sad. That is random, and I'm not... I don't think I'm reading that correctly. Sorry. Let's see. Andrea said, hi, would you consider doing a tutorial using different needles in an airbrush? I usually honestly use my 0.3. If I'm doing fine detail, I'll switch to a 2, but it's not, I don't know how useful of a tutorial that would be. Like, I don't normally switch them out, so it's rare that I have to switch them. So I can just tell you now, if it's something huge, I may switch to my 0.5. If it's something normally, my 0.3 is the one that is always in my airbrush. If I'm doing tiny detail, I'll switch to a 2, but I don't usually use my airbrush that way, so I don't see that one like being a useful, maybe I'm just not thinking it through well. Rebecca said, I did not do the tag. Sorry, Rebecca, I didn't see whatever your question had been. If you can ask it again with a highlight, so hopefully I'll see it. I'm sorry. Someone said, how do you get color accuracy of the colors in your reference monitor when compared to real life? it's probably not accurate. I mean, I try to do this set. I actually got the Color Monkey. There's a device you can buy that costs way too much for how ineffective it is to get your color monitor all. It actually has always made things worse. I don't like it. I will adjust the colors to try to make them as close to accurate as possible. But I mean, I don't care as much about the color as I do the values. That's what I'm watching for. So I don't do a whole lot of work trying to make things. Now, it'll be a little bit different on a digital painting. Digital painting, or like, let's say I'm getting a print ready where I've taken a photo and I'm doing the print. I just adjust everything in Lightroom until it looks as close to the original as possible. And hopefully the settings on my monitor are correct. I don't put a lot of work into it. There are things you can do. Unfortunately, I've got Color Monkey and there's another one. I've got two different color. Do I have it over here? No, it's not over here right now. I have two of them that attach to the monitor and they read the color and whatever. I just haven't found them to be very accurate, either one. And neither one had good instructions. So maybe that was the problem, because I was trying to match. My goal was to get my monitor to match my Wacom tablet. I can't get those two to match at all. I just have to adjust things as I work. But I don't know if any of you guys found any videos or something. I haven't looked lately. Maybe there's something out there. I just could not find resources on that, and not from the company either. So definitely wouldn't be recommending those devices. But I tried those, didn't have good results. I have better results just adjusting it, like taking a photo of the painting, what I know it should be, and adjusting from there. But I don't know that that's at all helpful for you. Make sure that's not, nope. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to that. Zale said, Lisa, please don't start talking about the people with art degrees working at the Macy's makeup counter. You're passionate about it. It's hilarious. Casey said, that's crazy. That's like saying that all people that are skinny fit or bulimic have anorexia. Well, it's kind of how the internet works these days. Agreed. Angel said, do you need permission when you want to put a person as your person of reference? I want to join an exhibit and they require that. Do you need permission when you want to put a person? Need permission? I'm not sure what exactly you're asking. I mean, you can't just take a photo you found on the internet of somebody and use that in your work. Do you have rights to use that? I mean, I would need more information to answer that. That's one of those, like, there's no blanket statement that I can answer that. There's definitely too many factors in that one. Nick said, my dog's breed is one of those prone to being overweight. I've had to take him to an emergency vet a few months ago. The first thing the vet mentioned was how fit he was and how rare. I got that even with my Italian Greyhounds when, they were older, and the vets are like, they look like they're in, because they look like puppies physically at the time. They were probably about 12 at the time. I remember him commenting, or I've had many vets say that, like how good of shape they are. And it's like, I just don't let them get overweight. That is it. And it's better for them, and especially like Jessie, because towards the end there, her arthritis was so bad. If that dog was carrying extra weight, that was going to be painful for her. It's not like, I don't want the dog in pain. I'd rather her think she wants to eat all the time, which they do. They're dogs. That's what they do, and not be in pain. Zale said, do you and the hubby and the fur babies ever do costumes for Halloween? No, I used to. When I used to show my Italian Greyhounds, they would have costume events at the dog show sometimes, so I've done that before. I dressed up Jessie so she looked like she was had a carriage behind her, like a Cinderella type carriage, and she was the horse. So I did that for a costume, but no, we don't do a lot with the holidays. Like, I like to decorate, and that's about as far as we go. We're very, very boring. I commented the other day about giving candy out on Halloween because Aquashola did get canceled this year, so we'd be home. And he's like, I'm not doing it. If you can do it if you want. He's not a kids person. So I'm like, I mean, maybe, I guess. We're very, very boring. Like, seriously. It works for us. Lucia's Art World said, worst thing is when people don't realize they are the problem. My grandparents complained their dog had a rash from the food they never gave her while giving her a slice of bread. Yeah, Matt has relatives. They've got pugs, which are also prone to being overweight. But these two are so overweight, they've constantly got skin infections where they shouldn't. I mean, the dog should probably be, I would guess, about 12 pounds, 25 pounds. These dogs are so morbidly obese. It is unhealthy, and they just keep feeding them. Oh, we're not giving them anything, and you look over and they're giving them nuts, like the husband's eating almonds and peanuts, and he's continuously giving it to the dogs, and you're just going. But we told the vet they only get half a can of some crap dog food they're feeding, but they only get half a can, and then all the table scraps you're giving them on top of that. Not that table scraps are always bad, but what they're giving them are. Yeah, it's really, really frustrating. And I get it. It's not like they're trying to be mean to the dogs, but they are, and they're making the dogs physically in pain. I mean, the health problems these dogs, those pugs specifically have because of the poor care they're receiving. It's really frustrating. It's frustrating to watch because it's like, it's such an easy fix. Let's see. Angel said, like a curriculum vitae, and they require people to know that I do art. Could be other artists too. Still don't know where you're. I'm sorry. My brain is not lining up with what you're asking, and I'm sure it's just that when I do the live streams, my brain's all over the place, and that's not firing off anything in my brain that makes me understand the things. TK said, my dog had a bad accident last night with her knee. Oh no, I couldn't get to an animal hospital because on the phone for half an hour. I don't really get why people aren't just grateful for good service. Yeah. Angel said, sort of a testament. Yeah, my Gibson, his wasn't bad. He zooms around the backyard. In our backyard, they didn't level it properly, and so you'll randomly have these big holes because of where the rocks were. And then when the dirt settles, it's a mess. And so that's something in spring we'll be working on. But he had the zoomies the other night where he's just racing around the yard, and he raced too hard. He twisted, I don't know if he twisted an ankle. I don't know what he did, but he came in kind of limping, and within a few minutes he's walking normal. But his gait hasn't been quite right. He's not limping, but I'm like, your gait's not as smooth as normal on the walks. And last night he did it again. So I've got to try to keep him from zooming in the yard for a bit. I need to get that to, whatever he twisted needs to heal. But I'm like, I can't even take you to emergency because I can't even tell them which leg it is. You're just kind of walking funny. So we're keeping an eye on him right now. Huh. I know you want to be laying outside. He's sitting up there giving me the stink eye again. Let's see. I heard you mention that beagles are always hungry. As a beagle owner, I completely agree. My dog just attacks his food bowl and even licks the floor around his bowl clean. Yeah, and they'll get into the trash and anything. Like, that's a beagle thing for sure. They're so cute, though. Sneak said, I have a soft spot for little brown tabby cats, and you're doing an amazing job on his fur. Oh, thank you. Kat said, if you consider yourself boring based on holiday celebrations, you're my kind of people. I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm not an exciting person. When I was younger, I'd go to clubs or go to parties occasionally, but mostly I stayed home and drew. Like, that was my thing. I want to sit home and draw. Like, that's way more fun to me. I'm not a go out and do things type person normally. I really like being home. I don't like to travel. I'm very, very, very boring. Paul said, how did you become successful in your art career? I feel so demotivated sometimes, and it feels I can't be good. Success, I guess, it depends on everyone is going to define, I love this question because it's very involved. Everyone's going to define success differently. Some are going to define their artistic success based on their skill level. There was a certain skill level they wanted to hit. Some are going to define it based on being able to support themselves monetarily. Some are going to base it off of recognition. You've got different levels of success. So I think the first thing is to define, what do you consider success? For me, it was being able to support myself. I wanted to buy a house. Like, that was kind of, that and owning a horse someday. I don't know if my back's going to ever allow that at this point. But anyway, those were kind of my goals in life. So that, for me, success was getting to the point where I could support myself financially. And so that's kind of what I'm going to speak on when I talk about success in that question, and gives you an idea of why. So for me, getting there was long. I back when I was younger, it was a known thing. So this is before the internet. When I started off my career, it was a known thing, or like, I don't know, everyone would always say that you really weren't going to be successful with your art until you were about 40. It took about that long to build your skill level and to build a name for yourself. That was true for me, but I think that was just because of when things fell into place. That's not necessarily true anymore because of the internet. You can certainly find success with your art way faster, way easier. You're not depending on galleries. You're not depending on a lot of things if you can market yourself right. And so that's going to be the big thing there. YouTube is the thing that pushed me forward. So I started doing better. I was selling stuff at art shows and stuff like that, but it wasn't enough to be consistent. Like I couldn't, again, before the internet, but I couldn't get enough work and sell enough stuff to consistently pay bills. I still had to teach, and it turns out I love teaching, so that works out well. But I was also working in an animal hospital, so I was doing 3 jobs at the time, which is probably why I didn't go out and do things. But I was doing 3 jobs. So my art on my own, I was doing teaching art, and I was doing, I was working in an animal hospital. So those 3 things all together, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work for not a lot of money. So that was where I started. Then when forums got to be a big thing, and I had my Italian Greyhounds, I started getting commissions for pet portraits. So that helped, but still not enough to support myself on my own. I was able to back off and just teach and do art at that point. I didn't have to work at the animal hospital, but I couldn't just do art. And even today, I couldn't just do art. I mean, I teach, but I love teaching, so it's not something I ever want to give up. But I learned to work the teaching aspect into my idea of success. Again, success for me was supporting myself as an artist. I get to draw and paint and make things all day. So that came with YouTube. And YouTube, it was about 2012 I started my channel. The end of 2015, I was making enough to be able to afford my apartment. And before that, I was living with my in-laws for many years. We had an apartment in California, but when we moved to Texas, my husband wasn't able to find work. We thought he'd find work right away. He wasn't, and he ended up working at GameStop for years, which is not enough to live on. So, and I wasn't making anything at that point because I had to start over again with building up a following, students, because I had my student following in California, but when I came here, obviously you have to start from scratch, and that takes a while. So with YouTube, I again went to working very, very hard for almost no money for many years. And it was from 2012 for me until 2015, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to build YouTube. I didn't know how to grow it. At the time, there weren't channels out there like Video Creators or Think Media or anyone who would teach you how to grow a channel. I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm just throwing up random videos, not really building much of a following at that point. But by 2015, the channel had grown enough that I could get my own apartment. So, not my own, my husband. I let my husband come too. But anyway, that's pretty much how that worked for me. And the reason that I bring this up, this all started in 1999 is when I started like my professional art career, selling stuff in galleries and stuff. So from 1999, it wasn't until 2015. It was a long road. Now, it doesn't need to be that long for you because of the internet. You've got to learn to market yourself. That is a big thing. And of course, constantly improve your skill level. Gibson, lay down. I know you're bored. Go lay down. You're not going outside. Lay down. Lay down. We're having issues lately. He doesn't want to. He wants to do his own thing, and he's pushing his the line on how far can I push mom before she uses me mom voice. Good boy. Aw, he's such a good boy. Sorry, I can't talk to my dogs in a normal voice. It's like physically impossible. But yeah, that's kind of how I got there, from being persistent, being determined I was going to make it work. Not like it didn't cross my mind. Like I wouldn't let it cross my mind that I was not going to make this happen. I was going to make that no matter what it was going to happen. But that required, in my case, being very broke for a very long time. I did things not correctly in a way that would support me financially for, a long time. And now, again, with the internet, that really helps. But YouTube was the thing that pushed me forward because like I said, I do like to teach. So that mine may be a little bit different than somebody who's only wanting to do art and not teach. But that's sticking to it even when you're frustrated and you're like, wow, my phone is about to get turned off. I mean, I stuck with it and worked very, very hard for very little money for a long time. It's been worth it to me, and to get to this point for sure. I don't regret any of it, but I get where it's frustrating, and unfortunately, that's just kind of, I think, a part of the road there. I think it's very important too. A lot of people, you'll see a lot of these like motivational speakers, and it's like, quit your job and go after your dream. That is some of the worst advice you can give someone. That is a great fairy tale that might work for a handful of people, but for most people, you are just screwing them over financially by giving that advice. I think that is such bad advice. I think when it comes to art, have a regular 9 to 5 job, if that means working at Walmart or McDonald's or an animal hospital or a pet store, whatever you need to do to pay your bills, you do that and you do art. You're going to have to sacrifice something, and a lot of people don't want to do that. In my case, I didn't go to clubs. I didn't hang out with friends a whole lot. I didn't go places. Vacation, I have not had it like a vacation. The closest I come to a vacation is going to my parents once a year, and they pay for everything for me to go spend a week with them. That's as close, and I can't do that right now. But I mean, that's as close to vacation as I don't do vacations. You're going to have to, I think, be willing to sacrifice certain things in order to get the other things that you want. And in my case, my time, I found it to be very important to keep working at that animal hospital that I hated very much, but I needed to be able to pay my bills. Once I got to where I was making enough with my classes consistently, then I could stop with the animal hospital and just focus on classes and my art. So, I slowly worked up to that. But if I had given up all of those side things, let's say I was like, I'm just going to go after selling my work. Yeah, I struggled to pay my bills, but it would have been beyond struggle. I just wouldn't have been able to pay my bills on some months. So I had to build up to get to this point. So yeah, when you see all of these motivational things, just go for it. Just quit the day job. Sometimes that works. But in most cases where it worked, the person had already started building a following. They'd already started building a name for themselves before they just up and quit their job. So that's my very long answer. Let's see. Skylar said, wait, you can't give dogs nuts? You can. You just don't want to give them a ton of them. Some can have allergies. You just don't want to feed them so much that they end up blowing up like a balloon because they gain so much weight. Nuts are very, very fatty, and so a lot of dogs are going to gain weight when they're, well, in this case, fed them constantly. Let's see. Kat said, you mentioned some time ago that your husband was a very good artist and that you should do a live stream together. Is that still something you might do? If I could ever get him on, I don't know that I would. He won't even let me take pictures. Like if I take a picture of him, I have to promise him I'm not posting it on Facebook. I promise. So he's weird about stuff because then, and the funny thing is, it's not like he's self-conscious. No, it's that he gets annoyed when his friends are like, oh, I saw your photo on Facebook. For some reason that annoys him when people at work or whatever see that I tagged him and I don't know. He's weird. So yeah, getting him to do it, I don't know. Yeah, and if he, for anybody who is complaining that I talk too much and I'm not doing enough artwork, Patreon or Subscribestar is going to be a better fit for you. Subscribestar, I don't quite have my list up yet. My library, I'm working on that, but those are just straightforward lessons. No me rambling and chatting. That is going to be a better fit. For anybody who, these are very informal. We're just chatting while we art. So there you go. I need coffee. Let's see. Gold said, another thing people fail to realize is when you're self-employed, you need to make more than you would as an employee since the taxes are higher. Oh yeah, there are so many things that are, well, you've got to save your taxes. So like taxes aren't just taken out of my check. I have to put that in a separate account. I call it my tax account to be able to pay those at the end of the year. And there's a lot of the business side when you're self-employed that a lot of people don't get. You also, one of the other things, and I think this is going to be interesting moving forward, is a lot of companies are starting to have their employees work from home. So my husband's working from home now. And what's interesting is not everyone has the self-discipline to be able to work from home and actually get work done. So my husband is fine with it, which kind of surprises me. I didn't think he would be, but he does fine with it. But a lot of people are not made for working at home and focusing on work. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes moving forward, as so many companies have moved their employees home. Like, because he's having a hard time with, he had one guy at his work fall asleep. It's like 911 for elevators, what he does. And he had an employee recently fell asleep. And what was his excuse? I physically exerted myself. And I'm like, that's what? It was weird. But I was like, yeah, you have a lot of people who just don't have the self-discipline to be self-employed or to work from home. It may not be for everybody. So yeah, I just think that's kind of interesting watching so many companies now having everyone work from home. That is, yeah. I mean, we're already seeing the problems with my husband's work where a lot of these people, it's like if they were at their office, it wouldn't have been a problem. And they're trying to call this guy, he wouldn't wake up. So he was just like, I'm going to take a nap. And it screwed over everyone else who's trying to work because they're having to try to cover for it. It was a mess. Paul said, thank you for the advice. Some days are just so slow and frustrating, dooms on me. It's pretty tough. I had so many days like that. I had years like that, like years and years and years of just, it was frustrating. I mean, where you're just so stressed out, especially when like I can't pay a bill or something would happen with the car. And I'm like, I can't pay for this. I don't have the money to fix this. And the stress in that was, I'm glad I made it through it. It makes me super appreciative. Like yesterday, we were on the freeway and going to dinner, and there was a landscaping company. It was a big like truck, and then they had a trailer behind it, and I don't know what all they had in the trailer besides those trees that were wrapped up, but rocks, I mean big rocks, were just flying out. I'd never experienced anything like it. And we're not talking rocks being kicked up, we're talking about rocks, like big rocks flying out. I mean, it just beat the crap out of the car, and it broke the windshield. And the stress, I mean, first we were stressing because it was like, we're going to die. Oh my God. Because the traffic was bad trying to get around this. I can't even imagine how many and they're just driving along. Like when we finally passed them, they're just driving along like nothing. They had no clue that they were doing this. I'm guessing at least 50 cars had their windshield broken by these. I mean, it was bad. I'm surprised it didn't do more body damage to the car. Because I mean, these huge rocks are just hitting it. So anyway, we're sitting, we've got to now replace the windshield. And I remember 6, 7 years ago, I would have been freaking out. Like, how do I come up with the money for that? It's like, what, $250, $300 to replace that windshield? How do I pay for this? I wouldn't have had it. And it was so stressful. Good sale on my friend's texting me about sales on orchids. But it was so stressful. And it's like, I was telling my husband, we were talking about that. I'm like, I'm so glad we got to a place right now where we can replace the windshield and not have a meltdown. But I remember those days, and it makes me now, as hard as it was back then, my God, am I appreciative to be able to pay to have the windshield repaired. And I know that sounds like a little thing, but it was such a big thing for so many years. So the stress you're feeling, I get it. Trust me, I was there. It was hard. It was worth it. I mean, I'm glad I am where I am with, that's not the pencil I want, with things, it paid off in the end, but there were some very stressful years in there where you're just like, I just want to give up. But that's why you want to have another job too. So you're not, I think it's worse if your only income is from your art and you don't have a backup, you don't have other money coming in. I think it makes it way harder. I think it makes you not enjoy the art as much. Let's see. Someone said, will people realize they don't need to work in a workplace because everything can be done with technology and people will work from home now on, less traffic and pollution? I mean, there's definitely some bonuses to it. It's just that not everybody has the self-discipline to be able to be and it's not self-employed, but to be able to work from home. A lot of people just kind of aren't getting their work done because they're working from home. So it's an interesting challenge to watch now. I certainly like the concept. I love having Matt home, but we also don't have kids or, think that would be a harder thing to try to work from home if kids were there. So I don't know how that's going to be. I mean, there's definitely, like you said, pollution, less traffic. There's some serious, serious benefits to having people work from home. The problem is not everybody is really built in a way that they've got the self-discipline to do that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out long term. And I'm pretty good. I just pronounce your name differently every time. Maybe one time it'll be right. I'm sorry for butchering it. Can I use a screenshot from a video as a reference photo for a painting? Guess I can't. Nope. Whoever made that video holds copyright. So unless you get permission, nope, you would be in violation of copyright in that case. Stacey said, sorry for the text. Saw an orchids on sale and knew you needed to know. Where are they on sale, Stacey? Better not be. What was the one that I used to order from? And that was the first time I had an orchid with a virus was from them. I'm like, why would I pay you extra then? Orchids by Hauserman was the one I got the virus one from. And they also, that company, they didn't ship me my full order. They shipped me parts, so I had to pay shipping. Like I would have chosen something else, but they didn't let me know that they didn't have the item that they sold me. Not impressed. And then the one that did come had a virus anyway. So yeah, not a fan. Lucas said, how many languages do you speak? I'd say like 0.75, and that 0.75 is English. I screw that up all the time too. And gibberish. I'm good at gibberish. If you counted gibberish, I'm like 25% gibberish, 75% English is what I speak. Let's see, where are we on your ear here? We need to get some browns up here. Just some little fuzz along the edge. Yeah, I'm always impressed by people who speak multiple languages because my brain's like, that is the equivalent to me of math, which I'm also not good at. DJ said, just got home from art supply hunting. Wow, I had a hard time getting what I wanted. Oh no, Strathmore has changed their paper. No Faber-Castell to buy online except small box ones. Oh wow, that sucks. That is not good to hear. I hope that they get that sorted. I've heard from other people that were having problems getting certain supplies. What do I have you curving this way for? What are you? You curve that way. And then in, and then that. I've got a bit of a mess here in the ear. Okay, there we go. That blocks it in a bit better. And the top of his ear is not done. I'll come and work a bit more on that. I'm just going to start on the inside here. Just kind of mapping out where everything goes. Yeah, it kind of, hearing that people are having a hard time getting certain supplies makes me really grateful. I work in so many different mediums. It's like, if I can't get something on one, I'll just put that on the back burner and work on a different medium until I can get things again. Like Joseph says, top 10 reasons I procrastinate. Number 1, that's it. Yeah, when you work for yourself or you work from home, like you have to not, like that procrastinating thing. And I procrastinate on some stuff, but when it comes to work stuff, you really have to get that under control. This is going to look so much better when I start pulling the purples in too, but I'm going to wait on that. Just going to, the part that I'm doing right now takes the longest. The part that I'll do once we get through that is the part that makes it all look so much better. Like it makes such a difference. But you've got to go through these boring stages first. Or ugly stages, I guess. I don't know. They're boring to me. Let me get a little bit of a pink or peach color in his ear. I'm going to go with a brighter pink and then I'll mute it. This is too bright, but I'm going to smudge it in with other colors, so that will blend. I've got to get these darks in here so that when I put the light pencil on top, it really shows up. One of the things that I recommend if you're working in colored pencil and you get frustrated with these ugly stages, don't jump around too much. Work on one little area until it's completely done before you move on to the next. So at least you have little zones that look good. It can be very encouraging versus trying to do like all the fur at once, all that, you know, all the dark black areas first and then all the brown areas. It can be very frustrating because it takes a long time when you work that way to start making things, seeing progression. So if you find that you get discouraged by how long those things take, try breaking them up into smaller zones. Angel said, yeah, I'm in some, in some stores, they would say they're out of stock with a particular product, but it really is not. Is that a selling strategy? No, I think it's an employee being too lazy to look it up strategy. I don't think anyone's trying to lie about that. I think that I know this from working, when I used to do retail, some of the employees were just too lazy to go look and they're like, no, we don't have it. Or they didn't know what you were talking about. And yeah, so I don't think it's a selling strategy. It's a poor employee service or customer service thing. OMG, what happened to your hair? You are beautiful though. Thank you. I don't know if I should be, I cut it. I feel more like me again. This was how my hair had been for years. It was only the last few years I had grown it out. And I definitely have had it with the long hair. Like I felt frumpy all the time because I always had it like in a half bun, like I was just done. So now it feels, I feel groomed. I feel like I went to the groomers and everything is where it's supposed to be now. I spend too much time with dogs. Zale said, is the pan pastel the base and you're going over it in color pencil? Yes, that is exactly what I'm doing. Is that why the white is showing up so well? No, the white is showing up so well because it's sanded paper. Sanded paper, this white, it just shows up really well. Stacy said, how is this paper with erasing? Okay, kinda. Not as good. We'll go kinda. So let's go with just a normal eraser here. You can see it will lift. This is the pan pastels, it's lifting. And that's been sprayed. Oops, I smudged it back in. But you can see it'll lift. So it's okay. It's kind of blotchy. Different erasers, you'll get different results. But you can lift that. And that's been sprayed with the Spectrafix too, and it still will lift a bit. I don't typically do a lot of erasing on sanded paper. I don't find it necessary. I just keep layering on top until it looks how I want. Oh, hold on one second. Let me just check this really quick because I am professional like this. Oh, no. It's a message from Patreon, and so I want to check because I'm still curious to see if they ever make an announcement about the stuff that their drama. They've not. I mean, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to tell everyone we screwed up royally either. So again, just blocking this in, and right now he's very rough looking. We'll have to do a little bit of blending to soften a lot of this out. Watch the direction of the fur too, where it changes. It's very easy to be making a bunch of pencil strokes like this and go, oh, it looks like fur, it looks good. And then you keep repeating that everywhere, and now he just looks flat. Watch where the fur moves. Very important. Victor said, Luminance versus Polychromos, which one is better? I can let's see, I can get Polychromos 120, but the thing I want, the Luminance, they're not in shop and I have to wait 2 weeks. Which should I get? Well, it depends on what you're doing. If I do like primarily portraits, I'm going to go with the Luminance because I want a wax-based pencil for that. If I do a ton of tiny, tiny detail, doing a lot of little fur, or working in sanded paper, then I'm going to go with the Polychromos. You can't go wrong with either pencil. They're both amazing. But if you like sanded paper, Luminance is out. That's just for final layers. It doesn't blend, where the Polychromos is a little bit more flexible on what it can do. So you're not going to be unhappy with either. But like I said, if I were doing portraits, I want more of the Luminance because I want a wax-based pencil. You can do a portrait with Polychromos, but I do find it easier to get the smooth blending with a higher wax base or wax content than the oil in that case. So depends on which one, but honestly, they're both great pencils. My stomach is growling. You may hear that. I apologize. Angel said, and I have canceled an art shop to buy, wait, what? And I have chanced, I can't read, sorry, an art shop to buy acrylic paints and strongly suggested me to buy a more professional one. I bought Liquitex. Yeah, a lot of the artists a lot of the art supply stores, because Liquitex, like Liquitex Basics is listed as a student grade, but if you're getting the light fast colors, then it doesn't matter if it works. Like it works. It works better for me. I prefer it. I have soft body and I have the heavy body. They cost more. They're the professional grade. They don't work as well for me. They don't work for my techniques, I should say, as well as the Liquitex Basics. But a lot of the art supply stores, they're just like, they just know it as, this is listed as being the professional grade. So it must be better. In that case, not necessarily. Joseph said, residual self-imaging, or what we see ourselves looking like in our mind. Yeah, it's funny. That is exactly it. Like for the last few years, I just didn't, I'm like, I don't feel like me. My hair didn't look the same. And then when I grew it out from when it was black with the bleach, that still is weird to me to have my natural color back. But that and my clothes, like my size, like my face was not shaped the same anymore. And it was weird to me, like kind of weird psychological thing. I guess you could break that down. Very odd how like I saw myself, but how I actually looked was not the same. And so I'm editing videos going, that doesn't even look like me. So yeah, I feel much more like me now. Plus short hair is so much easier. You know how much less shampoo and conditioner I have to use now? And it dries faster. Like my hair, I have really, really thick hair. It's fine, but it's thick. Like there's a ton of it. So yeah, drying my hair or doing anything with it is a bit of a pain. So I'm pretty excited to be back to my faster way to do things. What do you mean sanded paper? I'm in Belgium. Is that not also Stonehenge is not for sale? What paper is good? Kansan, sorry for my English. Your English is as good as mine, and I speak it natively. The sanded paper, it's sanded, S-A-N-D-E-D, sanded paper. It's like, you know, sandpaper that you would like sand wood furniture with. It's that, but ideally archival. So, you know, acid-free and all of that stuff. That's what, it's like a fine sandpaper is what sanded paper is. So it's very different. The Stonehenge is, I have Stonehenge. I don't find myself using it very often anymore. What paper is good? I like Canson Mitans, the smooth side for colored pencil. That's actually one of my favorites. I really like that. If you've got Arch's hot press watercolor paper for colored pencil, I like, or Fabriano Artistico would be like my next on the list. Angel said, I love Liquitex Basics Forever. Just ran out with titanium white, which is always sold out. Yeah, I noticed that on some websites. When I like always order it when I see it because I know it may not be there. Even if I don't need it right now, I still order it because, yeah, Casey said, gotta go, class. Have a great day. Have a good class, Casey. Okay, see, even here it switches directions a little bit. And the great thing with the sanded paper, so if I was working on hot press watercolor paper, if I realize, oh my gosh, these lines are going in the wrong direction, I've screwed this up, I can layer and layer and layer. Like I've never hit a point where I can't get more layers on the sanded paper. So I can keep changing things in it. And it has enough tooth that when I put more color on top, it sticks, like it still shows up. So kind of like acrylic painting. So, or oils, I can just keep layering. So I feel like it's very, very forgiving if something doesn't go right. Like I don't have to worry as much about it. I think that's one of the reasons that ink was never one of my big like go-to, let's play a lot with ink, because it's not super forgiving, whereas this is. I can keep changing stuff indefinitely until I like it. Victor said, sanded paper is okay with luminance pencils only for your final layers. With the sanded paper, though higher wax-based pencils, they're not going to blend. I mean, you can use it on it. They just don't blend very well. You would be blending with OMS. You could go that route. But they don't really blend. Whereas here, you can see I can go over with my pinky with the oil base, and it just softens out. I don't even have to use powder blender because I've got the Pastel base on this one. And it blends really nicely. And that's not necessarily what you're going to get with luminance. It kind of sticks. So luminance, I may pull out on this piece, but only for my final layers. I'm not going to use them until I don't need to blend this way anymore. And I will probably end up hyping up my color saturation quite a bit from what that reference photo is as I continue to work. Let's see. Got his little right around his eye. He's so cute. Hi, Kathy. Gonna clean up that edge here. Now, one thing I could do with oil-based pencils, like here where I keep blurring this out where I don't want it, I could do this with like the Pablos or a Luminance pencil, go with a wax-based pencil, and that's gonna keep that from smudging. So anywhere where I don't want it to smudge or blend out, that is a pencil that would work well. Which actually, let's grab those. I didn't bring them over here. Give me 1 second. Of course, they're underneath my other ones. So these, what I store my pencils in, these are the 3-drawer pastel boxes. You can see these. These are so handy for, let's see if I can do this without making a mess. Don't know if you can see that. But for storing the pencils and organizing them, this is my absolute favorite setup. And they're fairly inexpensive, like $30. They're not typically very, I've seen them as low as $25. I get mine from Jerry's Artorama, but you can get them from like Blick carries them, Amazon carries them. So I need to make sure this pencil's nice and sharp. But where I put this now, this is the black Luminance, it's not going to really smudge out much because of the wax content. So where I know I just need this to be dark and stay dark, this is a good choice. But I don't want to put that anywhere where I might need to blend more. Paul said, any thoughts on Ned Stark? It's such a bummer how he's too noble in Game of Thrones world. Yeah, that's gonna... I don't want to give spoilers away. Like, yeah, that's all I can say to that. Yeah, poor guy. I checked the price of Liquitex Basics Acrylic and OMJ. They're pretty cheap here in Italy. 48 color, cost only €39. I'm stoked. Yeah, that's a good way to get started, but keep in mind those tubes, I don't think I have any here, they're tiny, tiny. So you're going to eventually want to get the bigger one. These ones are the, let's see, 4 US fluid ounces or 118 mLs. This is the size you're probably going to want to go with eventually, but that set is a good way to get started. But when you replace the colors, get the bigger tubes because you'll go through those little ones when it, you know, they're tiny little, almost sample sizes. Let's see. Hi, would you give any tips on painting metal objects in acrylics? I'm working on a surrealistic steampunk piece and I'm having some trouble with the gears. Oh yeah, it's all about your contrast. Dark's really dark, light's really light, right up against each other, and that is going to make it look more metallic. Really watch that. You know, you've got the bronze colors and such, but I don't paint, I mean, I normally don't use metallic paint. I did on my owl recently just because it's for me and I thought he'd look cute. But normally I get things to look metallic and shiny based on the contrast, and it's that high contrast. Don't go all mid-range. If you go all mid-range and you don't get your darks dark enough or your lights light enough, it's not going to look like metal. Victor said, so I can with sanded paper on top layer with luminance. Yes, and that's what I'm doing here. So like here where I put that black is really not going to smudge out, which is good because I don't want it to. So I can do that around the edge where I keep having to go back with the polychromos because I keep smudging it when I smudge what's next to it. This, even when I smudge what's next to it, this really isn't going to move much. So the luminants are good. I just don't want to use those on my base layers. Nick said, spoilers, try them. Your friends will love you for it too. Yeah, Nick. So Nick and his spoilers. Nick is bad at spoilers. He also doesn't like pumpkin spice, so I have questions about Nick. Okay, let's see. Got a line here. We've got another one here. Okay, I'm going to go back up and fuss with the ear some more. Yeah, when you're watching anything Nick might be watching, you just unfollow him on Facebook for a while because he's probably going to out some stuff right before you see what happens. Let's see. Angel said, perfectly mixed teal color with phthalo green, ultramarine blue, and titanium white. I see why you love this color. So vibrant. Nice. I usually use phthalo blue and phthalo green, like 50 and 50 to get the color that I go with. You could do it with ultramarine. You just would use a bit more green. Definitely. It's such a pretty color. You can undertone with luminance, but more work is needed, I think. Yeah, you would probably want to use more. You would end up, for me, if I use luminance for a base, I'm going to be using more OMS to blend that out because it doesn't just blend softly like the polychromos do on sanded paper. I keep saying it on the sanded paper because I want to make sure that's clear. If this was Canson Me10's hot press watercolor paper, it doesn't blend the way it does on sanded paper either way. Hi, Martina. Nick said, I don't dislike the taste of pumpkin spice. It shows up everywhere and in everything. I don't see what the problem is. My stomach agrees it's hungry. It wants pumpkin spice Cheerios, which I'm currently obsessed with. It's like Honey Nut Cheerios in a different box. It's pretty much the difference. Yeah, Nick said, and it means summer is over. Well, you live in the North Pole, so, I mean, you don't really get summer anyway. I actually, though, it's funny, I joke about that, but I am always very, like, I like fall, but it means winter is coming. Hey, Game of Thrones. And I hate winter so much. Luckily, our winter is only a couple months here. Like, we have very short winters in Texas, but our winters are so ugly. I love Texas, but dear God, everything is just brown and cold. So we don't have snow, which, you know, convenient, but it's everything goes dormant and it's just brown. There's no green and it is just so ugly. But on the flip side, once, like, I look so forward to spring every year when everything starts getting pretty again. So there's that. I try to be positive, but I hate the cold and I hate everything just being brown and cold and ugly. And so, I mean, I'm with you. I get that side of things, but I really like pumpkin spice and I do like fall. I dread winter all year long. Like, it's probably unhealthy how much I dread it. Let's see. Angel said, the question is, how do you get your magenta? I buy it. I have been mixing for a while and it turns out to be purple or red. What's the recipe? Well, it depends on which purple and which red. So to get magenta, I usually will use Quidonkadonk red. You guys know I can't say it. Whatever. That red and ultramarine blue will get me magenta. Depending on the brand of paint I use, though, because certain brands, they're not coming out quite the same. But I buy my magenta. I don't mix it. That is one color I definitely would recommend buying. It is a pain to get the exact color that you want with that one. Can it be done? Yes. Is it worth the trouble? Not to me. Victor said, can you use solvent with luminance on sanded paper? I wonder. Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely use, the thing that you want to watch, if you were using powder blender, or in this case where I've got the base of my Pan Pastels, make sure you've misted that a lot. Like in this case, I'm using Spectrafix because I'm over Pan Pastels. If I'm using powder blender, I'm using the texture fixative from Brush and Pencil. Make sure you've sprayed that in between any layers where you've used powder blender or Pan Pastels, and then you're using colored pencil and OMS. Otherwise, you will mix, the OMS turns into a paste with the pastels or with the powder blender, anything that you've mixed that way. So that is my tip for you there. But yeah, you can use OMS on this. Angel said, you may unfollow somebody for spoilers, but you cannot escape casual meme with spoilers. Cecilia said, I also dread fall because I know winter is coming. Hate winter. Yeah, and it's funny, when I used to live in Southern California, even there I hated winter. I hate the cold. And cold in Southern California is like, oh, it's 50 degrees, and I thought I was dying. I always remember when I used to show my Italian Greyhounds, I was at a show and I think Echo had gotten best of breed at one of the shows I was at. And so I had a photo and I'm wearing this big jacket. I've got a beanie on, I've got a scarf on, and you can see the blue sky and the palm trees behind me. And somebody who lived in Chicago at the time was like, where are you? What temperature was? I was like, it was so cold. It was 53 degrees. They were all making fun of me. But I'm like, that's cold for California. Yeah, I've always been a big baby when it came to the cold. But even here, I wouldn't mind the cold as much if it was prettier. But everything just being brown, it's like, it's really ugly. Winters in Texas are so ugly. Let's see. What's a cold winter for you? Well, here is when it gets into the negatives. It does get cold here. Usually it doesn't stay that cold. You'll just have occasionally it'll hit like that. But normally the winters here are in the 20s and 30s on the lows. You'll have occasionally, and it's not a consistent thing like up north. You guys get where it's just consistently frozen. Here we swing back and forth, and we'll have random days where it's in the 70s. So we get that break that the people in the north don't get. We're just, even if it's in the 70s, it's still ugly because it's all brown. So I complain a lot. Carolyn's Art Adventure said, my husband is from Hawaii and went to college in Minnesota. Oh my gosh. He said after the first year, he finally understood the poetry about how amazing the coming of spring is. Yeah, that is definitely a thing. You really appreciate spring when summer or when winters suck. And I've never even been, in Minnesota. I'm in Texas. Our winters are not what Minnesota would be. From Hawaii to that, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how hard that was to adjust to. Angel said, the cold never bothered me anyway. Haha, Frozen. I can't make that claim. Maybe that's why I never connected to the Frozen movies as much. Lorna said, September, and we had hailstones, 2 inches here in the UK. Looked like snow. I'm sure it's the 2020 curse. Oh, no. Stacy said, what brand of canvas boards or panels do you suggest using? Hands down, Fredericks. Now, for transparency, I am sponsored by Fredericks, but I already would have given you that answer before I was sponsored by Fredericks. Like, the only thing that changed is now they provide me with what I already bought. I'd already sworn off everything but Fredericks before I got sponsored by them. So, but, just for transparency, I do want to throw that out there. But the Fredericks canvas boards, they don't warp like if you go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's or wherever, those canvas boards are going to warp in time. Whereas the Fredericks ones, I've not had that problem with. And the same thing with really with any of their canvases. I just don't have the problems I have with them that I've had with other canvases, which is why I had sworn off everything else. So hands down, my answer is Fredericks. Angel said, where'd you go? Did the winter came in Game of Thrones? I'm not giving spoilers. Tallulah said, winter is my favorite. Lucky for me since I'm Scottish. Yeah, you weirdos and your love of winter. My husband likes the winter, which is weird because as soon as the weather starts to get cold, his bronchitis, he just coughs all winter, which is going to be fun this year with the COVID thing because everyone's going to be looking at him like, are you sick? It's just, that's been, since he was a kid. And he's already started, as soon as the weather changes, the cough comes. So I don't know why he likes the cold so much. Skylar said, I think he means that pumpkin spice is oversaturated. There's Oreos and candy, and heck, there's probably pumpkin spice soda by now. I don't see the problem. You say that like it's a bad thing. Yeah, or let's see. Gold said, I get sad in the summer too. I hate summer. Yeah, summer here is really hot, but I like the heat, so I'm okay with it. I mean, we just shift to like going on walks at night instead of the day because otherwise the dog's feet will burn on the concrete. But I'm more of a night owl anyway, so that works for me. We've got to get this area a lot darker so that the lights will start standing out. Right now, everything's way too light. So right now I'm going a bit darker than what I want it to be so that the lights will then show up against this. Angel said, but there is summertime sadness too. Yeah, I don't get that. I love summer. Even in the summer, I'm just dreading when it gets cold. Like I'm gonna have to start going on walks in the daytime. No one wants that. People are out in the daytime. If I go at night, no one's around. Let's see. Skylar said, I can't say quidonkadonk, well, you're saying it right. I'm calling quidonkadonk either. I always say quindocrin. Casey said, I'd like to talk to the person who said pumpkin was a seasonal flavor. It isn't. I am with you on that. That should be a year-round thing. Absolutely. Although I was thinking about that the other day because I was trying to make myself not sad that all the stuff is limited or limited edition. It makes us appreciate it more when it comes. If we got it all year round, maybe we wouldn't enjoy it so much when it was here. See, I'm just starting to build the texture. I'm leaving some of the black or the brown showing. We want to get this all nice and blotchy. Gonna darken just that area there so his eye doesn't look like it's staring all weird. Said, winters in Slovenia, am I saying that right, are also not so beautiful. Everything is brown. It is very beautiful only some days in the morning when everything is frozen and white. Yeah, the snow is so pretty. I don't want to live where it snows because it's also too cold and I'm a big pansy, which is probably not the best suiting way to compare because don't pansies actually like the cold? But yeah, not fun. But spring is so pretty. Angel said, let's sing Spring, Summer, Winter, and Fall by Aphrodite's Child. Aphrodite, I don't know who that is. I have no idea. I'm old. I don't know what you young kids are listening to these days. Sorry, out of habit, I blow bubbles in this to make the creamer like mix up again. I shouldn't do that when you guys have to listen. By the way, who is your favorite Roman Greek demigod? Mine's Persephone. I don't know that I have one. I have not put that much thought into it. Like most of the, I read a lot of, I like fantasy books and stuff, and occasionally they'll be about the Greek gods, and I don't know what the originals are. The only ones that I've really heard are more from books where they twist what the originals were. So I just, and even that it's not that much. So I don't know a whole lot about them, honestly. Zale said, so you started seeing success in your business in your 30s. That's really encouraging. I'm almost 30 and I feel really behind. Well, and I don't think the reason I started seeing success was based on my age in this case. I think it was based on the internet. The internet was now available, and I had been working to build a following there. Once I started that, I really didn't start that till my 30s. So once I started really pushing, well, that's not totally true. I mean, I started in forums and stuff, but once Facebook and YouTube and all of that was in my mid to late 30s, that's when I started really pushing heavy on building a following there. And that's when I started seeing a difference. And so that's where I'm like, it's not really based on your age anymore, and because you're not limited to where you live in building a following like you used to be, or what art shows you could attend. That doesn't limit us anymore. You've got the internet. So if you can do the business and marketing side right, you can do this in your 20s. You can do this in your teens. I mean, there are teenagers who are super popular. So just depending on how you do your business and marketing and how hard you work there, and your consistency is a big thing, of course, which goes back to not procrastinating. And not everyone is able to work from home because they aren't always so consistent in things. Thanks, Susan. Victor said, I did an art competition when I was 10 years old in Victoria, Melbourne. I won, came first, all from schools. I was hung up in a children's hospital. It was my first achievement. Nice. That always feels so good, doesn't it? Who's licking? Why are you? No, stop that. He's just opening and closing and licking his mouth. Are you just trying to annoy me so I let you out? I think that's what's happening. You've got 20 minutes. Lay down and be calm. Silk said, I binge watched German TV shows of the 70s and saw what winter was like in Germany when I was little and why I used to love winter. Nowadays, winter is just cold, rainy misery. Angel said, yeah, you're pretty much that spring up in my... I did not read that right. Yeah, you're pretty much that springs up in my mind with successful artists. You're the definition. Oh, thank you. Yay. Lucas said, do you still play World of Warcraft? Which was your favorite expansion? I do. My favorite was probably Burning Crusade, just because I played a lot back then. And that was, I would say, was even more to do with the people I played with back then. And I liked the way, I mean, now, yeah, looking for groups, or group finders, you can get into groups a lot faster, but you don't have there was a social element to World of Warcraft that has been lost with Raid Finder and looking for group. Back then, even looking for group, you had to go and look for the group yourself and, post LFG for whatever run you were trying to do. And you got to know people, which I just thought was fun. And while the changes make it more accessible to get into groups and to do different things, it took that social element out. So, yeah, Burning Crusade was probably my favorite. I'm enjoying the current, well, actually, all I do now is farm for pets and mounts. So I don't really, I don't have time to raid or anything like that. So yeah, I do still play. Favorite expansion, no, I take it back. My favorite, hands down, was Lich King. That, I loved, why can't I think of Northrend? I loved those zones. I had more fun playing that. So I'd say Lich King, then Burning Crusade, and then I don't know what after that. Stacy said, I am with you. Love pumpkin spice and this time of year. Hate knowing it's closer to winter too. Don't like cold. I'm here in North Texas and I'm such a night owl too. Yeah, I'm up in North Texas. So you've got the ugly winters like us. They're just not fun. Angel said, question, how do you deal with achievements? Say like in contests, then you lose after that. Achievements. I'm not sure I'm reading that right, but I'll answer if I'm, I'll ramble. you don't always win. And it is, you know, I've had where I went to art shows and I did win. And then you have art shows where you're like, I don't understand why who won. Not because I'm jealous, but because there are so many other artists that are phenomenal. And what was chosen looks like it was painted with their toes. So, you know, I get where you look at things. There were many years when I was younger and I was still learning how the whole art thing worked, and I would be frustrated by it and I would be discouraged when I would see things winning that I just didn't understand. And artists, and again, not jealous because I thought I should win, artists who were far beyond anything I was doing, not being recognized for amazing, amazing work. The thing is, art is very subjective. And in some cases, it can be like dog shows where it's who you are. And that happens too. There was one group that I used to show with, the Inland, I'm not even going to mention names, but there was a group that I would show with, and different clubs where it was a lot of retired people, and they would vote for their fellow retired friends. It was like their little club, and they all voted for each other, and that was all that was going to win an award. Younger artists just weren't in the clique. They never won in some of these groups. Interestingly enough, the younger artists were more likely to have their work sell than those who were awarded. So, you know, what is more important? And I realized it was more important for me to get the sale than the 20-cent ribbon. That mattered a lot more to me. So, you know, you can be discouraged by that, but it's not fun. So what I learned is if you're going to show your work, you do it for fun, not to win. And I know that seems like a loser's attitude. No, you will be very discouraged. And art is too subjective. This isn't like I ran the race faster than the next person, I clearly won. With art, it doesn't work that way. And it can really give you, you know, break you down, I guess, if you're expecting to win and you never do. So it's not, you go to have fun. You go for the experience. You go to hang out with the other artists or whoever's involved. You don't go with the expectation of winning, because if you do, you are not going to enjoy yourself. Now, if you win, that's awesome. And that's an extra bonus, but it's not why you want to get involved in it. Otherwise, you will be very discouraged. Thank you, Rapaka, who I just butchered your name, and I apologize for that. Let's see. Susan said, I like winter here in Ontario, Canada, as I can't do any work outside in the snow. I don't feel guilty staying indoors all day to do art. I can see the benefit in that. Rain Angel said, sorry, I came in late. Is the background color pencil or paint? It is Pastels. Where were we? Here we go. Victor said, I come back to art since 15 years ago, stopping it because my ex-girlfriend cheated with my best friend and made lies about me to her. I was so sad. That sounds like a soap opera. I am sorry you went through that. I would have focused, whenever, I was always the opposite though. If I was like depressed or sad, like art is what I did. Like that is how I dealt with. So like, I know we all deal with all of these things differently, but I would have been like, I'm going to work harder on that. On the thing that I like that makes me me, that has nothing to do with the person who made me very upset. Victor said, and after what happened, I feel depressed, rock bottom, because I loved her so much. He was a creep, so I turned to art and now express my feelings on paper. I'd be just as upset at her. That was both of them were jerks. But aren't you glad you found out what she was like before it got, you know, you had kids involved or something like that? I know it's easy for me to say from the outside, but that could have ended up a lot worse if there were kids involved. I'd rather find out earlier on if somebody is that type of a person. You never want to let somebody else's, how they treat you, what somebody else did, affect the things that make you happy. Like that should be the time that you focus more on art, that you really turn more towards the things that you almost identify, you know, if you identify yourself or identify as an artist, I would be like, that's the thing I'm going to focus on, not the person who screwed. Well, that's not the right terminology. I mean, I was going to say screwed up, but that could be used. So yeah, moving on. Bad choice of words there, Lisa, in this case. But yeah, I would spend more time with the thing that, I mean, obviously she wasn't the person you thought she was. And again, I know it's easy for me to say sitting back and not having gone through it myself, but whenever somebody hurt me, anything like that, like that's actually, so I grew up with an abusive, my biological dad was schizophrenic and abusive. Art is the thing that got me through that. Like if I'm upset, art is what I go towards. Paul said, speaking of contrast, should I join one when the theme is one reference challenge, but clearly the reference photo is copyright protected? What? I would not join something if somebody is having a challenge, but they're using a photo they're not supposed to be using. I would not join that if I'm reading that right. Victor said, it hurt me a lot because her grandmother held me when I was a baby. Her family knows mine, and yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it happens. And I know I sound super cold because I'm that kind of person, but it unfortunately happens. Don't let somebody else's, the way they treated you, take you away from other things that you love. Like, spend more time with those things. They can help you get through really bad times. I sound uncaring, and I apologize for that. My brain works differently. Rain said, I would like to thank you because I don't know why, though I love art, sometimes I get lazy and seeing your video inspires me always. Oh, yay, that's good to hear. Okay, starting to get some of these little details, but right now, see how everything's very flat, gray, brown. You know, I've only got a few colors I'm using. We're going to come back through this later, not today, with blues and purples, and apparently this is going to be 2 more lessons. I'm trying to go through quicker. The face takes longer. The face and the body end up taking, even though the body's way larger, it really takes about the same amount of time. The face takes a little bit more, just getting everything where it goes. Let's see if I can move along a bit faster. Start getting just little, I'm pretty much dotting at this point. This fur is, I want to build the texture, but it's really short. Watch which direction it moves. I'm almost done, bored greyhound behind me. You can go outside in a few minutes. His thing lately has been demand out, demand in, demand out, demand in. He wants to go lay outside and then wants right back in, and then wants to lay outside, and I think he just likes telling me to get up and open the door for him. Victor said, no, you're right, thank you. By the way, I used to play WoW too. I think everyone ever used to play WoW. That seems to be like one of the most popular games. It's funny when my neighbor made me feel pretty old when he's like, wow, people still play that? I played that when I was a kid. Yeah. Let's see. Paul said, don't let someone dim your light simply because it's shining in their eyes. Who said that, though? I don't know. I like that, though. Yeah, if you have a question or a comment and I'm not catching it, make sure to do the Outlaw Pre-Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight my name on orange, I just don't see it. I'm not trying to ignore you, but I normally won't see it. Gibson, go lay down. Lay down. I'm trying to be more firm with him because when I start letting him tell me when he wants out and in constantly, or when he tells me he wants treats, when he tells me it's time, he's definitely been in, he thinks he's getting to be more and more in charge, which is when you typically run into some behavioral issues. Gibson, lay down. Sorry, mean voice. Lay down. That probably sounded so loud in the mic. Lay down. Don't give me the stink eye. Good boy. Now stay. That's a good boy. And now is when I will get an email from somebody telling me they hate me because I yelled at my dog. I had that happen. Somebody, and which was funny because I'm like, I don't even know what they were talking about because I don't like yell at my dogs. That was not effective. Sure as heck didn't happen in a video. But yeah, I had a lady send me nasty messages thinking I was like cruel to my animals because I gave them commands. I guess you're not supposed to tell a dog to lay down. I don't know. But it's inevitable. I'm about to get some nasty messages from using a firm command with a dog, training. Let's see. Casey said, this kitten is turning into the koala project. It's creeping up on 6 weeks. I know. This one is definitely, fur is a long one for sure. And it's like, this is why I don't love doing the super long, drawn out ones like this because you just don't get as many views. This shorter individual, like start to finish project seems to be what more people will watch. So I'm guessing people don't like these ones as much. But we'll do a few here and there. Yeah, fur is always the same thing as the koala. The fur is it is time consuming. Let's see. Angel said they have time to comment on your dog. Wow. Oh my gosh, you will not believe some of the things people are will do and say, I had a lady who was mad because, and she got really nasty. I just blocked her because I was going through, it was a hard time anyway, because it was, you know, I knew I was going to lose my Italian Greyhound soon. They both had a lot of health problems. They were old, very senior. And I had a woman who got really nasty about, why don't you show those dogs anymore? What happened to them? Or what did you do to them? Or something like that. And I was like, that's a weird way to word that. No, it's not. You used to show them in all your videos and you don't anymore. And it's like, she got really snippy about it. And it was like, I don't need your judgment. I put so much, like, I take such good care of my animals. And to see somebody like getting all nasty, that people, when it comes to animals, I guess kids too, moms have to deal with this too, where people think their way is the only way to do things. And yeah, it definitely was frustrating, especially during that time, because, you know, I was going through the fact that I was going to be losing them soon. So yeah, people get really nasty. And if you're, my grandmother, who I love, you know, still wish she was with us, so I don't like want to talk badly about her, but she was always one who, if you gave a dog a command, like just telling it sit, that in that tone, that was being mean. That was, what did she say? How did she word it? It was really funny the way she worded it. It wasn't abusive. It was, I don't know. She worded it in a weird way. Like her dogs were always very out of control. No one wanted to be around them because she wouldn't train them. She wouldn't use a firm tone at all, ever. And so the dog, they just didn't take her serious. They were like, mom's not going to do anything to us. But yeah, no, you get some, when it comes to animals, you get some nasty comments. And I'm guessing it's because you do hear of stories where like somebody ended up being a hoarder or some, you know, didn't take care of their animals. There have been YouTubers where that was a problem, like animal YouTubers with reptiles and stuff. So there was one girl I remember who got into it a lot because it turned out there were drugs involved. It was weird. It was a crazy story. But you get to where people start thinking everyone's like that, and they're looking for that in anybody who has animals. So yeah, it gets weird. Victor said, now I remember where I saw you. You said you played WoW. You used to stream playing WoW. No, I've never streamed WoW. I did like as an outtake on a video of me playing with some friends once, but it was like I've never streamed any video games. Get some highlights around the eye here. I've got to darken up a lot of this still. But once we get everything kind of mapped out, this goes much faster when we start smoothing out the fur, making the texture right. It's just this initial getting it in takes forever. And said, you are telling your dog what he should do. I have a cat, cutest cat in the world, and she tells me what I have to do. Well, that's the difference between cats and dogs, right? Well, and it's funny because sight hounds, especially Italian Greyhounds, they would say they're essentially cats. Like, they're not even dogs. They're very, very stubborn, very like, Gibson knows if I don't use the firm voice, I'm just not serious enough. And one of the problems I have is when they're doing the behaviors that they think is, you know, I'm in charge. I'm telling you when to play. I'm telling you I want to go out and walk. I'm telling you to open the door and close it, and in and out, in and out. This sort of thing, I think is adorable. I think it's cute. I want to do those things. I want, you know, he comes and tells me he wants to play. I want to play with him. But in his mind, he's like, oh, I'm the one who tells people what to do. And that also means I don't have to do what I'm told. So that may mean him jumping on people and hurting them and not stopping when I tell him. It can mean several things, or screaming on a walk because I made him walk past a parked car that he thought was a dragon. I don't know. Yeah, you run into a lot of those. So I have to continuously remind, I even tell my husband all the time, I'm like, remind me next time I start like falling in, and we're in that right now. They'll push it. When you have, Wade does not have the personality type to try to push who's in charge. Gibson does. Gibson will be like, he'll try to take over. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing where I have to tell my husband, like, remind me not to let myself fall for his cuteness again and just letting him get his way all the time, because it ends up turning into behavioral things. Let's see. Angel said, yes, Taylor Nicole Deem, PetTube, is as toxic as beauty community. Yeah, I think that name sounds familiar. Maybe it was her I saw that about. It was pretty crazy. Skylar said, oh, ouch, my ear, oh, woe is me. Oh, no, I'm kidding. Angel said, and I'm unaware that the community exists on YouTube and they value their pets so dearly. So What's wrong with hoarding though? What's wrong with hoarding? People who actually hoard animals, you can only take care of so many properly. Vet bills, proper food, proper attention, proper cleaning, all of that can only be, so the problem with hoarding is when, and I'm not just talking about someone, I have a lot of pets, like, and I'm going to get some red-eyed tree frogs, so I'll have even more pets, but I mean, I've got 2 dogs, I've got 2 birds, I'm going to be getting a third, well, it's really my husband's birds, but he wants a third, he's got a snake, he wants a tarantula, and I've got my dart frog, and I'm going to get him a girlfriend. I mean, technically, that's kind of a lot of pets. People who get into hoarding will get to the point where they have so many they can't properly take care of them, and knowing where your limit is. Like, I know I don't want more than the 2, the 2 boys are what for dogs. That's as much as what's suitable for me with all my other animals to take care of. Oh, and I've got my fish, the saltwater tank. So, and I've got my snails. So yeah, I've got a lot of pets, but they're all taken care, someone who gets into hoarding, let's say they're hoarding, dogs in Texas or Louisiana where you've got heartworm that's such a big issue. If they're not doing the heartworm test and the heartworm medication, those dogs are not able to be properly taken care of, so they get heartworm, and that's going to kill the dog. So hoarding isn't just having a lot of pets. I'll joke that I'm hoarding, but the people who are actually hoarding, they end up with more than can properly be taken care of, and that's where there's an issue. And there's no number of, this is how many pets you can have before you're a hoarder. It depends on the person and their time schedule. Like, I don't have kids, so my time can go into taking care of my animals. Whereas somebody with kids may not be able to handle as many animals as I can, or somebody who doesn't work as many hours as I can maybe can handle more than I can. So it depends. There's no number of this is how many animals and what I would consider hoarding, but yeah, you don't want so many that you can't take care of, and that's where the term hoarding would be bad, because you're talking about people who have more than what they can actually properly care for. Let's see. Victor said, do you ever want to do children's books with your art? Is there good money in doing that? I'm not sure. I, at one point, thought it would be something fun to do, and I don't now. I know some authors, and the amount of work that goes into that, there's no way I would have time. So as much as I love the idea, as far as there being good money, I have no idea how that would be. But my mom had wanted to do some children's book and have me draw them, and she never followed through with it. But anyway, it's like, the time in publishing, and there is a lot that goes, like, I have so much respect for authors or anyone who gets into that. It is a lot more work than I thought it was, that's for sure. Yeah, that's not something that I see myself having anytime in the near future for. See how I just keep like reshaping things just a little bit, just to get it just right. Mike says, being firm with your dog is just being a responsible dog owner. Oh, I totally agree. Unfortunately, too many people aren't. And it's funny because these are the same people whose dogs end up in the Humane Society. Mine won't, because I train mine, but or in shelters. So yeah, it's usually the people, like, it's funny, my neighborhood group I'm in, and I watch these people who have to get rid of their dogs, and it's like, you're the same people who are mad because you thought that your dog should be allowed to bark nonstop. You just watch some of these posts that are just, where people are not training their dogs, but these are the same people who typically are the ones who end up getting rid of the dog instead, like, because the dog doesn't fit in because you didn't train it. I'm not saying to be mean, but they're the same people who think raising your voice or being firm, being consistent. I think it's very important to be consistent with your dogs. So yeah, anyway, people get very angry on the internet. If anyone is actually training their dog, apparently. Let's see. Angel said, yeah, they have been pretty heavily criticized about it. I'm not a pet person, but wow, it's kind of problematic. Yeah, it's really frustrating when you see animals suffer because somebody got in over their head and refuses to, like, let that pet go to a more suitable home. That you see it, like, there's a show, A&E has it. Is it A&E? They're here on YouTube. They air the episodes. Hoarders. There was one recently with a woman who had been hoarding dogs and cats, and you just see what these animals live like, and you're like, oh my God, it's a problem. I mean, it makes you so frustrated to see the animals have to suffer like that. So I'm using my Luminance. Nope, not light enough. I need a lighter one. for what I want. Trying to get some highlights around the eyes. This one should work. So we'll start with this. This is, I think, light cobalt blue. Rain Angel said, CLA coloring book made by you would be cool. Yeah, I've thought about doing a coloring book, and that would be a little bit easier because I could take some of my other paintings and just do the line art and then embellish them a bit for a coloring book. That would be fun. That I could see myself being more likely to do than like an instructional book or something like that. The other thing that I've wanted to do is like just a book of finished paintings and quotes, like not tutorials or anything, just like coffee table type book would be kind of neat. Skylar said, have you ever done fan art or just drawn World of Warcraft stuff? I did a fan art of World of Warcraft. I did Booty Pay. It's actually hanging on my wall, right above where the tree frogs are going to go. But yes, I did that. And the painting is, I think it's still here on YouTube. I don't think I pulled that one. I pulled some because I got all paranoid about copyright and I didn't even want to deal with it. So even though it's fan art, I was like, I don't know. But I think I don't know if it's still here or not. I think it's still on my website, if nothing else. You can see the painting. Angel said her story was tragic, really, because she never stopped hoarding animals, and that's when electricity was cut off. One of her pets died. Oh, geez. Yeah, I didn't follow her super heavily. I just knew briefly what had happened, but like I don't know all the details or anything like that in her case. Yeah, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people. I mean, I probably should, but when it comes to animals suffering from their lack of, like, my sympathy kind of goes out the window. I definitely get pretty judgy. So that's where I'm like, I can kind of understand where people, they see another YouTuber and they're just assuming that the animals are, it's going to be something like that. I get the frustration because no one wants to see animals not taken care of or any of that, but it also really makes me mad when it's like, when have I ever given you any indication my animals weren't taken care of? Angel said, it's turning out with those weird TLC shows where people marry a roller coaster. What? I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm going to soften some of this down now. So the fur, I'm just kind of lightly going over these marks so the fur is not so scraggly looking. And we've got to get a lot of the dark. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and use my wax-based black for these dark areas now that I don't want smudging out. And then I can smudge the polychromos around that. We're almost going to wrap this up for today. I want to get more of the face. I won't finish. We'll do the nose, and this whole section needs to be worked on next week. I apparently drag this one out forever. Fur is time consuming. It's a lot of fun to do in colored pencil, though. I definitely enjoy doing fur and pencils. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more. I'm going to just use the same blue, so it's a little bit darker. I'm going to use that a bit, and then I'll do some purple, too. And this is the Luminance, so it's not really going to smudge. Wherever I put this is pretty much going to stay put. This is going to help things not to be so flat. I just want to leave this with it looking at least a little bit better. I need to come through with a bunch of purple next. There aren't many purples I love with Luminance. These will actually work for that one. So this one is the violet brown, and then I've also got magenta violet. We'll use a little bit of those too, so his face starts at least looking a little bit better before we, oh, we're already at 3:07. Okay, I need to hurry up. Just do a little bit more and we will wrap this up. By the way, make sure to check out our moderators channels. Nick and Joseph both have art channels here. They help so much, so tell them thank you because they keep all the crap out of the chat so it's tolerable. And they've got really cool art channels, so you definitely want to subscribe. Someone said TLC, the Learning Center, home of strange addictions, cheapskates, and weird fetishes. Yeah, see, I don't watch any of that stuff. I watch Hoarders because that show fascinates me, but I don't really watch a lot. Well, I don't have TV, so I just watch what's on, if they put it on YouTube. Paul said, aside from art channels, what other YouTube content do you watch? I watch some political stuff. I watch news stuff. What else do I watch? Hoarders, that's my favorite. Been on a Golden Girls binge. That's another favorite. Been watching a lot of that. That's about it. Tech stuff sometimes. I'm trying to think what else. I can't think of anything off the top of my head besides those. I think that's mainly what I watch. This is blending this really pretty too. I'm really liking this color. This is that manganese violet. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. No one's surprised. But see how as I go over this lightly, I don't even have to blend it. This is blending what's there. I'm getting a really nice soft look just from barely putting pressure. So I'll still have a little bit of detailing to do on his face, but we're working out of that ugly stage. Finally. Okay, that's soft enough for now. So that is good. That is as far as I'm going to go today. Oh, I'm going to have such a hard time not walking by and working on this after the stream because like he's getting to the point I can start making him look good. This is the fun part. But I need to wait so we can all do it together. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining today. So next Wednesday, I don't know what we're doing Wednesday yet. I'm not sure. I have a million smart art boxes to go through. I don't think that's what it's going to be, though. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Make sure you're signed up for my email newsletter, though. That goes out Wednesday mornings, and it will let you know what live streams we're having that week and any new videos that might have been. Definitely check that out. Oh, Paul said, I feel guilty, but still love I Love Lucy show. I love that show. I really like that one. Caution Artist at Play said, I'm such a fan of Golden Girls. It's the best. I also have been on a hoarder's kick lately. It's like a train wreck that you can't look away from. And oh, does it make me clean? So it is super effective on cleaning days. Anyway, thank you guys again. Thanks, George, for watching. We're starting to get there. We will be starting his body next week. I don't know if we'll finish it. We'll try. But yes, so thank you again so much. And I will see you guys Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And again, make sure you're signed up for the email newsletter so it will let you know when videos are coming up. YouTube is no longer notifying most people. So, I mean, you can click the notification icon. That may or may not help. The email is going to be your best way to keep up with that. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll see you guys Wednesday.